In the dark times, many times that's when you see what your faith is made of. That's when you can grow. You know, we did that same thing when all that criticism hit. I knew we were doing the right.
Joel Osteen, known for his calm and inspiring public image, has unexpectedly revealed a long-standing family conflict with his mother-in-law, Joni Lamb. Though their ministry appeared united, it is now clear that there have been deep-rooted, unresolved issues within the Osteen family for years. This is not the first time the family has faced behind-the-scenes drama, but this time Joel is no longer keeping quiet. The public has always admired Joel for his leadership and the success of his ministry, making his decision to speak out so openly about the family rift even more surprising. The truth about Joel's relationship with Joni has raised many questions and doubts. The public was already aware of the tensions, power struggles, manipulation, and accusations of spiritual abuse within the Lamb family. Now it seems that everything has been made public. Joel's decision to make such a bold revelation could be the result of years of unresolved issues finally taking their toll. The meeting between Joel and Joni appears to have been the catalyst that pushed him to this point. The Osteen family, once known for their unity and faith, is now being torn apart by the very forces that once brought them together. This development has significant implications for the future of Lakewood Church, as the atmosphere during that meeting was tense and emotions were running high. Joel's decision to speak out was not just about his personal grievances, but also about the broader impact on the community. The Osteen family's personal conflicts are negatively impacting their large and influential ministry, which they have built over the years. This public feud threatens to undermine the very foundation they have worked hard to establish. It raises questions about the future of their ministry, as these shocking revelations suggest their grip on power may be weakening. The public is closely watching how these power struggles and family dynamics within a prominent megachurch like Lakewood Church can shape its course. The family is trying to mend their broken relationships, but the fallout from Joel's shocking statements has shaken the world, and the consequences could be far-reaching. At the center of the controversy is Joni Lamb, whose authority and its impact on those close to her are now being questioned. The revelations about spiritual manipulation and the claim that Joni's voice is the voice of God have sent shockwaves through the religious community, leaving many questioning the legitimacy of Joni's leadership. Jonathan immediately questioned why he had to submit to Joni's voice instead of hearing directly from God, expressing concern not just about family dynamics, but also the role of spiritual authority within the ministry. This was not the first time Jonathan and Susie had felt this pressure, but it was the first time they went public with their allegations of spiritual abuse and manipulation. As the meeting progressed, it became clear that Joni's control over the family extended far beyond mere guidance and was an attempt to enforce total compliance. Jonathan's frustration was evident as he realized he had been coerced into agreeing with decisions that did not align with his beliefs. The manipulation was not just about making decisions for the ministry, but about controlling the lives and choices of those closest to her. Jonathan's position in the family was at risk, and the pressure he faced to conform to Joan's will only increased as this conflict unfolded. The question on everyone's mind was how far Joan would go to maintain control over the ministry and her family. What made the situation even more alarming was the involvement of Jimmy Evans, a trusted family counselor who seemed to align with Jan's perspective. Evans's claim that Joan's voice was equal to God's raised red flags, as it placed her in a very powerful and unchallenged position. This raised the question of whether it was genuine spiritual advice or an attempt to solidify her control. Jonathan and Susie were left with little room to maneuver, as the very foundation of their faith was being challenged. The role of spiritual leaders in a family-run ministry and how the line between authority and manipulation can easily become blurred. The public accusations made by Jonathan and Susie challenge the way the ministry has been run, and the truth behind their words is hard to ignore. The text also explores what happens when a family's spiritual foundation is built on control rather than trust, and the cost of silence in the face of manipulation. Furthermore, the text mentions the controversy surrounding Joni's marriage to Doug Weiss, which was seen as a betrayal by Jonathan and Susie, leading to a further breakdown in their relationship with Joni. The family's principles and beliefs. The Lambs believed that Doug Weiss was an unsuitable partner, and their concerns about his divorce and previous relationships further fueled their disapproval. Joan's decision to marry Doug Weiss just months after Marcus Lamb's death left many questioning her motives. Some wondered if it was a genuine relationship or an attempt to maintain control after her husband's passing. Many in the ministry community expressed discomfort discomfort with the timing and nature of the marriage. When Jonathan and Susie refused to publicly support the union, Joan responded swiftly and harshly, demanding they endorse her marriage regardless of their personal feelings and threatening consequences if they did not comply. As the family continued to divide, it became clear that Joan's actions were not just about her personal life, but a challenge to the family's ministry and the beliefs they had worked hard to build. The Lambs believed that Joan's marriage was not only a violation of their family's values, but also an insult to the legacy Marcus had left behind. The topic of union has become a controversial and divisive matter. The Osteen family faced deep divisions, not only among themselves, but also with the principles that once united them. The stakes were higher than ever, and the question was whether the family could survive this intense conflict. The growing tension within the family led to a dramatic meeting where Jonathan and Susie had to confront Jan's actions directly. Joni, determined to defend her marriage and decisions, refused to back down. The pressure was immense as Jonathan and Susie were caught in a web of family loyalty, religious duty, and personal conviction. In the end, their refusal to support Joni's marriage resulted in a public fallout that would forever change the course of their lives. The real question remained: what happens when family loyalty and personal beliefs collide in the world of faith? A statement that challenged the foundation of Jay's authority, leading to far-reaching consequences for their relationship and the ministry. The Lambs, once loyal followers of the Osteen family, now found themselves on the outside as the family's fracture became public knowledge. The question arose whether this rift could be repaired, or if it was the final blow to their involvement in the ministry. The explosive family meeting on July 11, 2023 marked a pivotal moment when the Osteen family's world came crashing down. The high-stakes discussion centered around the Lambs' refusal to publicly support Joan's marriage to Doug Weiss, with Jimmy Evans, the mediator, asserting that Joan's voice was equivalent to God's, an accusation that quickly escalated the encounter. Jonathan and Susie were deeply shaken by what they had witnessed. They had long respected Joni, but this moment revealed a level of control that was both alarming and difficult to accept. Jonathan's emotional reaction was clear. He had always believed that the voice of God should be heard directly, not through intermediaries. Hearing that he was required to submit to Joni's interpretation of God's will left him feeling betrayed and spiritually manipulated. The discussion quickly shifted from a disagreement about a marriage to a deeply personal attack on their faith and their ability to hear God's voice for themselves. What started as a family disagreement evolved into a spiritual battle, leaving Jonathan and Susie feeling caught between their beliefs and their family's expectations. The tension in the room was palpable, and Jonathan, ever the advocate for his beliefs, pushed back against what he perceived as spiritual bullying. The leaders, Evans and Joni, claimed that their guidance was divinely inspired, leaving no room for questioning or dissent. It was not just a theological disagreement, but a battle for control. Jonathan and Susie were told that their spiritual duty was to submit or risk being seen as rebellious, with their faith, family, and ministry positions at stake. As the conversation escalated, Evans and Joni insisted that Jonathan's refusal to comply was not only a challenge to their authority, but an affront to God himself. The accusations of spiritual abuse, which had simmered for years, were now brought to the forefront. For Jonathan and Susie, the choice was clear: continue to suffer in silence, or stand up for what they believed was right in a crisis of faith. The actions they take would significantly undermine the core of their organization's operations. The final moments of the meeting were extremely tense. Joni stated firmly and calmly that if Jonathan and Susie could not follow her lead, they were no longer welcome in the ministry. The Osteen family's public image of unity was shattered, replaced by a fractured and struggling family dealing with the consequences of their choices. As Jonathan and Susie left the meeting, they knew their lives would never be the same, and the ripple effects would be felt throughout the Lakewood Church and their millions of followers. The sexual abuse allegations and claims of spiritual abuse by Joni Lamb went beyond mere theological disagreements, revealing a deeper and more sinister issue that had been festering within the Osteen family for years. Jonathan's discovery of his daughter's abuse by a family member was a pivotal moment that set off a series of events. The family's response to the serious allegation shattered Jonathan's trust. Instead of supporting him, Joni and Marcus defended the accused family member, claiming the allegations were baseless. This betrayal left Jonathan feeling abandoned and isolated, not only damaging their personal relationships, but also having long-lasting consequences for their ministry, a disturbing account of allegations of sexual abuse within a family, and the inadequate and flawed investigation that followed. The Lambs, Jonathan and Susie, were informed that the family member accused had been cleared, but they knew something was amiss. The investigation had been rushed and incomplete, with the truth seemingly hidden in order to protect the family's reputation. Jonathan's courageous decision to speak out about the abuse, despite the immense pressure to remain silent and the potential consequences for his position within the ministry, was a significant act of defiance. He refused to let the truth be covered up, even though it meant going against his own family. As the story unfolded, more troubling information emerged about the personal struggles and dynamics within the Lamb family. It became increasingly clear that the spiritual abuse they had endured was just the tip of the iceberg. The accusations of sexual abuse, combined with the lack of accountability and transparency within the Osteen family, painted a deeply concerning and disturbing picture, where powerful institutions and familial loyalties can create an environment that enables abuse and silences victims. It underscores the immense courage and personal sacrifice required for individuals like Jonathan to confront the truth and seek justice, even in the face of intense pressure and consequences. Important questions about the systems and structures that allow such abuses to occur and remain hidden. It suggests the need for thorough, impartial, and comprehensive investigations, as well as a fundamental shift in the culture and mindset that often prioritizes institutional reputation over the well-being and protection of vulnerable individuals. The organization was more focused on safeguarding its image than on the well-being of its members. For Jonathan and Susie, the stakes had never been higher, as their commitment to honesty and justice put them on a perilous path that jeopardized their jobs, reputations, and family relationships. The ramifications of these revelations extended far beyond the Osteen family as the Lamb story gained attention, prompting questions about the role and responsibility of religious leaders to protect the vulnerable. The accusations of spiritual and sexual abuse cast a long shadow over the ministry, leading the public to question how much of the Osteen family's success was built on secrecy and manipulation. Jonathan's shocking betrayal had now become public knowledge, and there was no way for him to undo the damage that had been done. The controversy surrounding the powerful and influential Anya family continued to escalate, drawing intense scrutiny and speculation from both the congregation and the wider community. Jonathan found himself in an increasingly precarious and vulnerable position. With his future within the ministry, he had dedicated his life to hanging by the thinnest of threads. Despite his deep personal devotion to the church and unwavering loyalty to his family, Jonathan's steadfast refusal to comply with the unreasonable demands and manipulative tactics of his domineering mother Joni and her husband Doug Weiss had severe personal and professional consequences that he was now forced to grapple with. The explosive and emotionally charged meeting with Joni and the senior pastor Evans left Jonathan with little choice but to resign from his leadership role at the prestigious Lakewood Church, which had been the center of his world for so many years. In that moment, Jonathan realized he had not just lost a job, but had in fact lost his entire sense of purpose and connection to the only life he had ever known. Joni's calculated decision to abruptly terminate Jonathan's position was a ruthless power play, as she firmly believed that maintaining absolute control over the lucrative and influential ministry was far more important than maintaining family loyalty. Jonathan, however, felt utterly betrayed, not just by his own mother, but by the entire rigid and unforgiving system that had once been his unwavering source of support and guidance. As the dust began to settle, Jonathan found himself adrift, forced to confront the harsh reality that the comfortable world he had inhabited for so long had now crumbled around him. With an uncertain future ahead, he grappled with a profound sense of loss, disconnection, and uncertainty, unsure of where he would find purpose and meaning in the wake of this devastating turn of events. Jonathan's requests for an open and honest discussion about the situation at hand went unanswered for months, leaving him feeling increasingly frustrated and confused. He desperately sought clarity and resolution, hoping to find a path forward, but was instead met with an eerie silence and outright rejection from those he had once trusted the most. To add to his growing distress, Joni, a member of his own family, informed him that his impending dismissal would not immediately impact the payroll, initially giving him a false sense of hope that was quickly and cruelly dashed when he was officially and unceremoniously let go. This profound professional betrayal by his own flesh and blood was a devastating blow that Jonathan never could have anticipated or prepared for. The once unified, faith-filled family dynamics that had long been the foundation of both his personal and professional life had been shattered beyond repair. Jonathan was left questioning not only his role and place within this fractured family, but also his purpose and calling within the very ministry that he had dedicated years of his life to building. Witnessing the collapse of the thriving ministry he had helped create, all due to petty personal conflicts and power struggles, was emotionally devastating. The damage done to his most cherished family relationships seemed irreparable, leaving him feeling utterly adrift and alone. However, despite the deep lingering pain and sense of betrayal, Jonathan remained steadfast in his unwavering beliefs and commitment to his faith. He knew that the road ahead would be long and arduous, fraught with uncertainty and self-doubt, but Jonathan was determined to find a way to pick up the pieces and rebuild, both professionally and personally. Though the path forward was shrouded in darkness, he clung to the hope that with time, patience, and a renewed sense of purpose, he might one day be able to restore the unity and trust that had once defined his family and the ministry he had so proudly helped to cultivate. Although the betrayal by his mother and the fallout from their spiritual conflict were incredibly difficult to bear, Jonathan remained steadfast and resolute in his decision to stand firm in his convictions. He knew deep within his soul that the truth had to be revealed and brought to light for the sake of his ministry and his family, even though he no longer held a leadership position within the Osteen organization. As the months slowly passed, the public at large gradually became more and more aware of the internal turmoil and upheaval within the Osteen family. Supporters and critics alike began to weigh in and voice their opinions on the ongoing conflict, causing the situation to garner widespread attention and scrutiny. Jonathan's departure from the ministry he had poured his heart and soul into for so many years marked the end of a significant era, but it also paved the way for a more honest, open, and transparent discussion about the persistent power struggles, allegations of spiritual abuse, and complex family dynamics that had plagued the Osteen legacy for what seemed like an eternity. The fallout from this family feud reverberated far and wide, sparking difficult conversations within the broader religious community about the importance of accountability, the dangers of unchecked authority, and the need for healthier, more Christ-centered leadership models. Jonathan knew that his decision to stand up for the truth, no matter the personal cost, would undoubtedly ruffle feathers and make him a target for criticism, yet he remained undaunted, driven by an unwavering commitment to expose the corruption that had festered within the very institution he had once helped to build. In the midst of the public scrutiny and media frenzy, Jonathan found solace in the support of his closest allies and loved ones, who rallied behind him and his pursuit of justice. Together, they navigated the treacherous waters of this scandal, determined to shed light on the systemic issues that had allowed such abuse of power to occur. Although the road ahead was uncertain and fraught with challenges, Jonathan remained resolute in his conviction that the truth would ultimately prevail, no matter the personal cost. Despite the personal turmoil and emotional upheaval that had been consuming his life, Jonathan vowed with unwavering determination to continue his relentless fight for his family's integrity and honor. As he and his wife Susie struggled to rebuild their shattered lives, they soon uncovered a tangled web of much deeper, more complex issues lurking within the very fabric of their family's history. The initial public meeting with Joni and Evans was just the beginning of a long and arduous journey of uncovering the truth. As they delved deeper into investigating the inner workings and operations of the powerful Osteen family and their influential ministry, Jonathan and Susie realized with growing horror that this was not simply about spreading the faith and guiding their flock, but rather a calculated, ruthless campaign to maintain absolute control at all costs. The once dismissed allegations of pervasive spiritual abuse within the ministry were now proven to be horrifyingly true. Through their meticulous research and dogged determination, they unveiled a systematic pattern of deception, manipulation, and the suppression of the truth that had been entrenched for years, even decades. The Osteen family's formidable position of power and influence within the broader Christian community had been built upon a foundation of secrecy, emotional coercion, and the willful exploitation of the very people they claimed to serve. Jonathan's valiant efforts to expose the deeply troubling allegations of of sexual abuse had been repeatedly thwarted and obstructed by those in positions of authority who had chosen to prioritize protecting the ministry's reputation over ensuring the safety and well-being of its vulnerable members. Undeterred, he pressed on, fueled by an unwavering commitment to uncover the full extent of the corruption and bring those responsible to account, no matter the personal cost. Jonathan and Susie felt compelled to speak out, driven not merely by a desire to stand up for their personal beliefs, but by a deeper moral imperative to expose the insidious underbelly of an institution that had betrayed their fundamental trust. Their courageous revelations uncovered a deeply troubling pattern of spiritual manipulation and deception, where critical decisions were made not based on scripture or biblical teachings, but rather on the self-serving agendas and naked ambitions of a few powerful individuals within the organization. As they delved deeper into the corruption, Jonathan and Susie were horrified to discover that Joan's controversial marriage to Doug Weiss, which had caused such immense turmoil and upheaval within the community, was in fact part of a calculated and cynical strategy to consolidate absolute control over the ministry. Doug's highly questionable personal background, coupled with a glaring lack of any biblical justification for his previous divorce, were brazenly exploited by Joni as a means of cementing her own authority and dominance within the family. Despite the vehement objections and protestations of her own children, the more Jonathan and Susie investigated, the more they came to realize that this was not an isolated incident, but rather symptomatic of a pervasive culture of nepotism, deception, and the ruthless concentration of power. They were determined to bring these dark truths to light, even if it meant risking their own standing and reputation within the institution. For them, the moral imperative to expose the hypocrisy and corruption had become far more important than any personal considerations or consequences. The Osteen family, once regarded as trusted leaders whose ministry was perceived as a shining beacon of hope for the community, had ultimately betrayed that hard-earned trust. As the painful truth gradually unraveled, the individuals affected by the Osteen's ministry realized they had been systematically manipulated and exploited for years, enduring emotional, psychological, and spiritual abuse that was now undeniably exposed. The shocking revelations that came to light served to shatter the meticulously crafted image of the Osteen legacy, which had been built upon a foundation of lies, deception, and the systematic abuse of power. For years, the Osteen family had carefully curated a public persona that portrayed them as pillars of the community, respected spiritual leaders, and advocates for moral and ethical conduct. However, the veil of secrecy that had shrouded their true nature was finally lifted, exposing the dark underbelly of their organization. The brave decision made by Jonathan and Susie Osteen to courageously speak out not only exposed the deeply rooted rot within their own family, but also empowered countless others who had suffered under the Osteen ministry's spiritual manipulation to come forward with their own harrowing stories. These testimonies painted a grim picture of a family that had wielded its power and influence to exploit the trust and faith of their followers, subjecting them to emotional, psychological, and in some cases even physical abuse. The stories that emerged were truly heartbreaking, as parishioners recounted the ways in which the Osteen family had used their position of authority to control and manipulate them, all the while maintaining a facade of piety and righteousness. This avalanche of testimonies ultimately led to the crumbling of the Osteen ministry's once unassailable reputation, which had been carefully cultivated over decades. The public's trust in the family's leadership and the integrity of their ministry was irrevocably shattered, as the stark contrast between their public persona and their private actions became increasingly clear. The Osteen family's startling public disclosures have drastically altered the trajectory of their lives and the future of their ministry, leaving them facing the consequences of their deceptions and the weight of their actions. The truth is now firmly entrenched in the public consciousness, and the repercussions of these revelations are expected to reverberate for years to come. The Osteen family's fall from grace has served as a sobering reminder that even the most seemingly impenetrable institutions and individuals can be brought down by the power of the truth. As the dust settles, the public will undoubtedly demand accountability and justice, ensuring that the Osteen legacy is forever tainted by the weight of their misdeeds. As the community grapples with the aftermath of this deeply troubling scandal, many are left reeling, their faith in the once revered Osteen ministry shaken to its core. The revelations that have come to light have exposed a dark underbelly within an institution that had long been regarded as a beacon of moral authority and community leadership. The fallout from this sordid affair has sent shockwaves through the very fabric of the community, leaving a trail of profound devastation in its wake. Survivors of the alleged abuses now find themselves at the center of a maelstrom, their voices long silenced now demanding to be heard, their cries for justice echoing through the halls of power. The Osteen family, once the untouchable custodians of this revered institution, now find themselves at a crossroads, their reputations and legacies irreparably tarnished. They must grapple with the overwhelming task of rebuilding trust and addressing the immense harm that has been inflicted upon those they once claimed to serve, all while navigating the treacherous waters of public scrutiny and intense media attention. The path forward is fraught with challenges, both legal and moral. The community is now forced to confront difficult questions about the nature of power, the boundaries of authority, and the sacred responsibility of those in positions of trust. The Osteen ministry, once a pillar of the community, now faces an uncertain future, its credibility and influence irrevocably damaged. This sobering turn of events serves as a stark reminder of the importance of vigilance, accountability, and the unwavering commitment to prioritize the well-being of individuals over the preservation of any institution or legacy. The journey towards healing and reconciliation will be long and arduous, but the hope is that the lessons learned from this harrowing experience will help prevent similar abuses of power from occurring in the future, and that the victims and survivors will find the courage and support they need to rebuild their lives and their trust in the community. If you want to know about the latest breaking news, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to click the like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe for more exciting content. This story is not finished yet, so stay tuned.